Hi everyone, welcome to week 10. How are you all doing? How are the things that you've learned so far in positive psychology coming into play as you cope with the situation that's all around us right now? I know it's affecting everyone differently. Some people are missing their senior year of high school. Some are working extra hard at their jobs and feeling tired and at risk. A lot of us also have children who are at home instead of at school or daycare, impacting our schedules and our attention and our stress levels. As I read through your discussions and journals for week 9, I was struck by how many of you enjoyed spending time with others, even though it might not have been your inclination to take the time to do it. I was also struck by how many people found time alone to be so refreshing and so unusual. A couple of you used words like guilt and shame and judgment when talking about how society views the practice of taking time alone for self-care and life-savoring. As I read over the articles on altruism, I was noticing again how much emphasis was placed on reasonable altruism. We seem to benefit from altruistic acts as long as they don't overwhelm us. Kindness can't only be for others, it has to be for us too. Savoring life and taking care of oneself is a loving act that benefits others too. A couple of you mentioned the quandary over whether there truly was such a thing as a selfless act. One of our articles went over this in a lot of detail too. Are we empathizing or just removing our own negative feelings when we go off to help others? Sometimes this seems to not really matter. If we recognize that we are the same deep down as everyone else, then our kindness might be self-serving. But even if we are basically being self-serving in our kindness, we're still serving everyone at the same time as we're pleasing ourselves. There's just no difference. On the other hand, thinking about my own origins, being a psychology major, wanting to help other people, I recall that for a long time I had a meddlesome desire to fix and change other people, along with a superiority of thinking that I was all set and others could use some advice and fixing from me. I would say this is a learning that's still developing in me, but at some point I did learn that my life cannot be about fixing others. I can't have my ego dependent on other people's happiness. It's actually not my business if other people are happy. It's my business to stay out of their way and help clear their path of obstacles. And that's about it. At this point, I've learned that others do not need advice or fixing from me. All I can do is be a friend and a questioner, but finding answers for others, those I do not have. So there's for me a discovery that there is kindness and lovingness in not trying to help too much. With these musings, we move into week 10, which is all about love. Our discussions of altruism and sharing lead naturally to thinking about our relationships with others. Love and relationships are part of the good life, aren't they? Parents report more happiness and meaning in life than non-parents, despite the demands parenting places on them. Researchers have found an association between happiness and having a good marriage. But this is correlational research. So can we say that marriage causes happiness? Could there be another explanation? Just like with altruism, it's hard to tease apart causality. Are happy people more likely to have good marriages, or do good marriages make people happy? Are altruists healthier because they volunteer, or do they volunteer more because they're healthier? These are open questions. I just want to keep alive this idea that correlational research can't prove that one thing causes another, although it can suggest connections. But love gives us a hard time too. The loss of romantic love, unrequited love, and all-consuming passion are painful in the way they tear into our hearts and make us forget everything else in life. And our love for children can come along with a whole lot of sacrifice, demanding patience, optimism, and energy beyond which we feel we have enough to give. And even friendship and community can be overwhelming in their demands at times. As we saw last week, helping others is associated with positive things up to a point, but too much helping can overwhelm our resources and lead to ill health. This week we're going to look at romantic love, self-love, and universal love. We'll discuss the ancient Greek categories of love as well as Sternberg's triangular theory of love. We'll learn about the biological underpinnings of what happens when we fall in love. That might explain a thing or two about the messes we get into. We'll look at the Buddhist concept of the 4 sublime abidings, read the story of the Aikido master, and explore the joys of attachment, love, and connection. There are 2 separate pages of content coming up this week, and it's a lot to read, watch, and do. So please get started early. Next week, we're going to be working on our final presentations and focusing more on getting those projects ready. So this week can kind of bleed into next week. You'll have some time to catch up if you don't finish everything this week. So this week, we're going to start with talking stick as always. And I want you to challenge yourself to read about attachment theory, which is an important topic in developmental psychology. There are 2 journals and 1 discussion. I'm using the discussion in place of a quiz, so please invest in writing your answers and responding to others by Monday night. In your posts and replies, make it easy for learning to happen and for the conversation to progress. The best ways to do this are to ask open questions that can't be answered in a word or 2. Bring in outside research and then ask your question about that research, so it's not just opinion questions. Get people to read something else that might pertain to the topic at hand. You can also make connections to past topics we've talked about and answer questions asked by others. Make sure that you use ideas, words, and concepts from the week's materials to show that you've read and thought about the assigned readings. Again, next week will be a much lighter week, and that's by design. This is to give you time to catch up on any late work and to think ahead to make sure you're working on your final project. Have a good week, and as always, let me know if you have any questions or concerns.